Madeline Cross arrived at the courthouse 10 minutes early. Not because she was nervous, because she liked to be seen. She stepped out of the black car slowly, deliberately, allowing the cameras enough time to focus. Her heels clicked against the stone steps with a confidence that had been rehearsed, not today, but over years of winning rooms simply by entering them. She wore cream-colored silk, minimal jewelry, hair perfectly controlled. This was not a woman coming to lose. This was a woman coming to collect. Inside, her legal team waited. 3 people. Expensive. Relaxed. One of them smiled when he saw her. "This will be quick," her lead attorney whispered. "He doesn't have much room to maneuver." Madeline nodded. She had already imagined the ending. Half the assets. Full custody leverage. A public narrative she could live with. She glanced around the courtroom. Rows of wooden benches. Muted light. Quiet anticipation. And then she saw him. Ethan Rose sat alone at the defendant's table. No entourage. No visible confidence. No performance. He wore a simple dark suit. No watch. No ring. He didn't look at her. That bothered her more than anger would have. She leaned toward her lawyer. "Is he seriously coming alone?" "He dismissed most counsel," the lawyer replied. "Kept one." Madeline almost laughed. So this was how it ended. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Madeline remained calm. This wasn't emotional for her anymore. It was procedural. When the proceedings began, her lawyer spoke first. Clear. Polished. Certain. He laid out contributions. Lifestyle. Public image. Sacrifices. She supported his career, he said. She elevated his standing. She assumed partnership. Madeline listened with a faint smile. This was the version she believed. Then the judge turned to Ethan. "Mr. Rowe," Judge Harrison said. "Do you wish to respond?" Ethan stood. "No, Your Honor." A pause. "You're waiving argument?" the judge asked. "Yes." Madeline's smile widened. That was it. Madeline had never doubted outcomes. Doubt was for people without leverage. For years, she had been the visible half of their marriage. The one people recognized, invited, quoted. She was the one whose name appeared in articles, whose presence turned dinners into events. Ethan had always preferred the background. She mistook that for weakness. She remembered the early days. The apartment. The quiet dinners. The way he never talked about work. She thought he was embarrassed. When success came, it came to her first. Deals. Panels. Media. Ethan stayed consistent. Too consistent. Her lawyer leaned back in his chair, relaxed. "We're in a strong position," he whispered. "The court tends to favor contribution." Madeline nodded. Contribution was her language. She contributed visibility. She contributed access. She contributed value. That was how the world worked. Across the room, Ethan sat still. Hands folded. Eyes forward. He hadn't spoken since declining argument. Madeline studied him, searching for something. Fear. Regret. Anger. There was none. The judge shuffled papers. "Before we proceed further," Judge Harrison said, "the court will review asset declarations." Madeline crossed her legs. This was the part she was waiting for. Numbers always told the truth. Ethan's attorney finally stood. A man Madeline didn't recognize. He was calm. Older. Unimpressed. "Your Honor," he said, "we're prepared." Prepared for what? Madeline wondered. Judge Harrison looked down at the first document, then paused, and read the first number aloud. The room shifted. Judge Harrison adjusted his glasses. He read the number again. Slower this time. More carefully. A quiet ripple moved through the courtroom. Not sound, but recognition. The kind that happens when people realize they are standing on the wrong side of something permanent. Madeline didn't react immediately. She waited for context. Numbers alone meant nothing without framing. Her lawyer leaned forward, frowning. "That can't be right," he muttered under his breath. Judge Harrison looked up. "Mr. Rowe," he said, "can you confirm this declaration?" "Yes, Your Honor." One word. No explanation. No defense. Madeline turned her head sharply and looked at Ethan for the first time that morning. He met her eyes. Just once. There was no triumph there. Only certainty. The judge flipped the page. "And this?" he asked. "Yes." Another page. "And this account?" "Yes." The courtroom had gone silent. Madeline's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we request a recess to verify." "Denied," the judge said calmly. "The court has already verified." That sentence landed heavier than any raised voice. Madeline felt it then. Not fear. Disorientation. This wasn't part of the script. She leaned back, crossing her arms, recalibrating. Ethan hadn't spoken for months during the separation. He hadn't argued, hadn't threatened, hadn't rushed. She had assumed delay meant weakness. Judge Harrison cleared his throat. The court recognizes that Mr. Rowe's financial disclosures include assets that were not previously disclosed during marriage proceedings. Madeline's lawyer froze. Your Honor, the assets, the judge continued, were legally held in trust prior to the marriage. Madeline's breath caught. Trust. The word echoed. She turned to her attorney. What does that mean? He didn't answer. He was reading. Across the aisle, Ethan remained still. He didn't look at the judge. He didn't look at Madeline. He looked at the floor, as if this wasn't something to celebrate, only something that had finally arrived. The judge leaned back. This court is obligated to clarify, Judge Harrison said, that premarital assets held in trust are not subject to division. Madeline's lawyer finally found his voice. But Your Honor, she contributed to his success. The judge raised a hand. Contribution requires transparency. The room seemed to contract. Madeline felt heat rise up her neck. She stood suddenly. That's not fair, she said, her voice sharper than intended. He never told me. Ethan looked up. Slowly. For the first time, he spoke. I never lied. The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. The judge nodded. The court agrees. Madeline stared at Ethan. Years of assumptions collapsed in seconds. He hadn't hidden wealth. He had lived smaller than it. Her attorney whispered urgently. We need to adjust strategy. Madeline didn't respond. She was remembering moments now. The small house. The refusal to upgrade. The way he paid quietly. She had called it insecurity. Judge Harrison looked directly at her. Mrs. Cross, he said, this court will not penalize discretion. The word cut deeper than accusation. Ethan's attorney stood. Your Honor, we request to proceed with custody and spousal consideration. Madeline's lawyer swallowed. He nodded. Because now, for the first time that morning, they were reacting. The judge didn't rush. That was the most unsettling part. Judge Harrison folded his hands and looked at Madeline the way people do when they've already reached a conclusion, but still allow the other side to speak. Mrs. Cross, he said, before we proceed, the court has one question. Madeline straightened. This was familiar territory. Questions could be handled. Were you aware, the judge continued, that Mr. Rowe declined executive compensation during your marriage? Madeline blinked. I don't see how that's relevant. The judge nodded slightly. Please answer the question. Her lawyer leaned in. You can say no. She did. No. Ethan's attorney stood. Your Honor, may I submit Exhibit 47? Proceed. A document appeared on the screen. Dates. Signatures. Zeros. Line after line. Madeline's lawyer scanned it once. Then again. His face changed. He didn't whisper this time. He spoke too softly. He refused salary for 5 years. The courtroom exhaled as one. Not shock. Understanding. Judge Harrison tapped the desk. Mr. Rowe, he asked why. Ethan paused. Not for effect. For honesty. Because I didn't need it, he said. Madeline laughed once. A short, sharp sound. That's absurd. The judge didn't react. Is it? Madeline stood again. You're painting him like some kind of saint, she said, gesturing toward Ethan. He lived off me. My reputation. My work. Ethan didn't interrupt. He never did. Judge Harrison looked at the screen again. And yet, he said, the court sees no withdrawals from joint accounts matching that claim. Madeline froze. That's impossible. The judge turned another page. The mortgage, he said calmly, was paid from a trust account. Another page. Property taxes. Utilities. Education expenses. Page after page. Each one quiet. Each one irreversible. Madeline's attorney closed his folder. That was the sound everyone remembered later. Not a slam. A surrender. He leaned toward her. We need to stop. She shook her head. No. The judge watched her. Closely now. Mrs. Cross, he said, this court is concerned. She scoffed. About what? About credibility. The word landed harder than any accusation so far. Ethan finally looked at her again. This time longer. I asked you once, he said quietly, if you wanted to know. Her chest tightened. She remembered. She had waved it off. Called him small. Judge Harrison straightened. The court will now proceed to custody determination. Madeline's lawyer stood reflexively. Your Honor. The judge raised his hand. No further financial argument will be entertained. Madeline felt the floor shift. Custody wasn't about money. It was about judgment. The courtroom felt smaller now. Not physically, emotionally. Judge Harrison reviewed the final documents without haste. The kind of calm that comes only when nothing is left to argue. Custody, he said, will be determined based on stability, consistency, and demonstrated responsibility. Madeline sat rigid. She had prepared speeches. None of them mattered now. The judge looked at Ethan. "Mr. Rowe," he asked, "where do you currently reside?" Ethan answered simply, "The same house. No changes." Judge Harrison nodded. "And the child's routine?" "Uninterrupted. No elaboration. No persuasion. Just facts." The judge turned to Madeline. "Mrs. Cross," he said, "your residence?" She hesitated. The apartment was temporary. The renovation delayed. The travel constant. "I'm in transition." The word felt weak as soon as she said it. Judge Harrison made a note. Silence returned. Then the gavel moved. "Primary custody is awarded to Mr. Rowe." The sound wasn't loud, but it was final. Madeline stood. "This isn't fair," she said, her voice breaking for the first time. Judge Harrison met her gaze. "Fairness," he replied, "is not volume." Ethan didn't look relieved. He looked done, as if this wasn't victory, just alignment. The judge continued. "Spousal support is denied." Madeline's breath left her body in one sharp exhale. "No further claims will be considered." Gavel. People stood. Whispers started. But Ethan remained seated. He waited until the room emptied. Then he stood, and for the first time, he turned fully toward Madeline. "I never wanted to take," he said quietly, "only to stop being mistaken." The courtroom felt smaller now. Not physically, emotionally. Judge Harrison reviewed the final documents without haste. The kind of calm that comes only when nothing is left to argue. "Custody," he said, "will be determined based on stability, consistency, and demonstrated responsibility." Madeline sat rigid. She had prepared speeches. None of them mattered now. The judge looked at Ethan. "Mr. Rowe," he asked, "where do you currently reside?" Ethan answered simply, "The same house. No changes." Judge Harrison nodded. "And the child's routine?" "Uninterrupted. No elaboration. No persuasion. Just facts." The judge turned to Madeline. "Mrs. Cross," he said, "your residence?" She hesitated. The apartment was temporary. The renovation delayed. The travel constant. "I'm in transition." The word felt weak as soon as she said it. Judge Harrison made a note. Silence returned. Then the gavel moved. "Primary custody is awarded to Mr. Rowe." The sound wasn't loud, but it was final. Madeline stood. "This isn't fair," she said, her voice breaking for the first time. Judge Harrison met her gaze. "Fairness," he replied, "is not volume." Ethan didn't look relieved. He looked done, as if this wasn't victory, just alignment. The judge continued. "Spousal support is denied." Madeline's breath left her body in one sharp exhale. "No further claims will be considered." Gavel. People stood. Whispers started. But Ethan remained seated. He waited until the room emptied. Then he stood, and for the first time, he turned fully toward Madeline. "I never wanted to take," he said quietly, "only to stop being mistaken." She searched his face. There was no anger, no satisfaction, only distance. Outside, cameras waited. Madeline walked past them without stopping. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. Ethan stepped into the light, not to speak, but to leave. And that was the part no one forgot.